Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, well, today I am revisiting Machina Arcana. And this has been my cure for something that I'm struggling with right now. I'm calling new game fatigue. I have had a couple new games set up on my table over the last couple weeks that I have just not liked at all, and it has been very discouraging, and it has kind of discouraged me to learn any new games. I had Planet Apocalypse set up on my table for I think almost 2 weeks, or at least it feels like that, at least a week and a half learning it, and I got to be honest, guys, I do not see why that game is getting the praise it's getting. I just feel like there's absolutely nothing to that game except for the fact that everything is big. Like, the minis are big, but they're also just not very good minis. I mean, yeah, they're big, but when you compare those to a Kingdom Death Monster mini, which is also big, just the detail just isn't there, and the sculpts are just, I don't know. I don't like anything about Planet Apocalypse. I'm super disappointed that I bought it, and I'm trying to sell my bundle. So if anybody wants a good bundle of Planet Apocalypse, let me know. And then I also had Legends of Novus set up on my table. A new game that I didn't back the Kickstarter, but I did a late pledge for that. And I just wasn't feeling this game at all, really. I had a lot of questions with the rules. There's a really glaring misprint on the map that I'm not quite sure how all the people, because this game had a lot of Kickstarter preview coverage, and I'm not quite sure how people missed it, because it's like the first time I played the game I noticed this like misprint on the map, and it kind of like is a pretty important one. So yeah, it's just been like struggling to get into new games. So I wanted to return to Machina Arcana because I know I like this game a lot. And I gotta tell you guys, if the designers can really nail a solid rule book for the upcoming expansion Kickstarter, I can easily see this game entering into my top 10 of all time, because it is just fantastic. I know I did a pretty in-depth look at and talked about the game a little bit, and a lot of the reasons why I like it. But ever since then, and ever since the last time I've had it set up, it has been a game that I think about a lot. I see it on my shelf, and I want to pull it out and I want to play it. And that, to me, just like that simple idea there just means that this is such a good game, because every time I see it, I think, oh, I should play Machina Arcana. One thing that I just love, I've talked about before, is the look of the game. I just think it looks fantastic. The color scheme is great. The map tiles are super interesting, not in just the way they look, but in the way that they're laid out, which I'll talk about a little bit in just a second. The characters are interesting. The game is challenging. It's got some really good, meaty decisions to make. And it's just always fun. And the theme is so well implemented in everything. It really does feel like this cohesive vision of a game, and that is something you guys know that I admire a lot. So in this game, I am playing the first scenario game. Horror in the Ice, because I want to play through all of the scenarios. So I'm starting at the beginning again, and this time I'm playing with Belinda Warren, a bruiser, and Mackenzie Wallen, a crafter. And I'm actually was really getting my butt kicked. And one of the things that I didn't really talk too much about when I did my kind of in-depth overview of the game are the monster abilities. So I had some really bad luck the first few turns of this game where I had a bunch of monsters out. I had these 3 monsters out right at the beginning of the game, and each one, you're not dealing with a whole bunch of like the same minion in this game. Every single monster, so all the level 1 monsters, every single monster is different and unique. So you're never just spawning like a group of orcs or skeletons or any like one type of minion that you see in games that you spawn a lot of. Every single monster in this game has a unique appearance, unique stats, and also unique abilities. And every time one comes out, you're just kind of like, holy crap, like how am I going to deal with this? What do I need to do to deal with this monster? And, can I do it? And at the beginning of the game, when you don't have a lot of gear, it can get very hectic. So the first monster I spawned was this Yedithian. And it has an armor of 2, a will of 4, 1 life, and 5 stamina. And so when this monster dies, the attacker gains an item, which I killed it, and I forgot to draw an item, so I need to remember to do that. And when this monster is the only monster on the board, he becomes ethereal. And ethereal means that unless you have, as a player, unless one of your heroes, your explorers, has a item or an ability that lets them specifically target ethereal creatures, he could not be targeted. And he was running around doing a pretty nasty arcane attack, which attacks willpower. And because he was the only creature on the board, he was ethereal, so I was really hoping to get another creature on the board, which I did. And then a thrall spawned. So this thrall, what the thrall does is the thrall moves around and it does an adjacent attack for 2 stamina, and it automatically hits. But what it does is it invokes horror events. And horror events are these cards that you're going to draw from this deck, the horror deck. And each one of those is usually a really bad thing that happens to the explorers. So the thrall's just going around scaring the crap out of everybody. So you want to deal with him first, or pretty quickly. But I was happy to see something else come out so that the Yedithian would no longer be ethereal, so I could target it. And then finally I had this Buopoth came out. And it's just kind of a basic, it's going to run up, it's going to attack you, but every time it gets hit, it runs back towards its spawn space. So it's kind of like doing these like hit and run tactics. So I had these 3 guys on the board, and Mackenzie Wallen was just getting her butt kicked. She's almost dead. And I moved her around this corner here, and then I realized that all 3 of those monsters were standing on this graded area, and that was like a trap. I completely forgot about traps, which are awesome. And so I had Blenda. She moved over here and she sprung this trap, which attacked all the monsters, and I was actually able to kill them all in one single go, which really saved me. And it was such a cool moment. And then after all of that, well, this guy spawned, and this guy is super nasty. So he's a ghast. He's super weak, but what he does is he teleports from action space to action space. And the action spaces are listed on the back of the book here. They include chests, event spaces, recharge stations, trap levers, chapter spaces, and workbench. Basically, the action spaces are the good spaces on the map that you want to use. You want your explorers to use to get good benefits, to get items, to spring traps, to progress through the story, and so on. And what the ghast does, the ghast is he just teleports around destroying action spaces. So I finally built up enough essence on Blenda to make it down to this chapter space to light it and progress to the next chapter of the story. However, she's way up here and she does not have enough time to get down here before the ghast on its next turn is going to first teleport to this chest to destroy that. thus eliminating my chance to get some gear. And then the next action space closest, it's this chapter space. So this ghast is going to destroy that chapter space before I get a chance to light it. So I'm going to have to explore further onto a new tile on my next turn, probably up here, spawn the next tile and hope that I can reach this chapter space on this tile before the ghast again destroys it. And the ghast cannot be targeted by active abilities. So it's now the game is like a race between me and the ghast, who's just going around like crazy trying to destroy everything. Just super cool, and the game is filled with things like that because the horror deck, it is going to be constantly throwing new and dangerous monkey wrenches into your plans. Hopefully you can get some gear. I was able to get a pretty nice set of armor, and finally I found a cool weapon for Belinda Warren, or Bruiser. And then so far Mackenzie has only been able to find this armor, which is cool because I can go up and I can smash exploding barrels, and I am not affected by the exploding barrels. So Mackenzie can use the exploding barrels to her advantage. But yeah, this is a really neat game. I do feel that the beginning survivor, the explorers, I keep saying survivors. What was I playing last that had survivors instead of, I guess, Zona? Survivors, explorers, heroes, warriors, all interchangeable names for the player characters. The starting characters, they are very weak, especially in their attack. They only attack with one dice. So Belinda would attack with a black D6, and Mackenzie with a white, which is that's the more powerful. That's the weaker of the two attack dice. And most of the starting monsters have, so this monster here, a moon beast, its armor is 4. So the Byaki's armor is 5. So you have to have like 2 or 3 dice just to hit these guys. So when you first start off, it is quite challenging just in terms of getting what you need to start being able to stand up to the monster. So you're doing a lot of running, you're doing a lot of moving around, trying to gather gear, trying to find good equipment in order to just to stand a chance of survival. So this game kind of has this like pretty steep ramp up at the beginning of the game. This steep ramp of difficulty that you have to get over this initial hump in order to start to feel like, okay, now I have some breathing room. And usually once you feel like you have some breathing room, that only lasts a few turns until things escalate, and then you feel like you have to get over this next hump of difficulty. But I feel like it's almost always doable. Sometimes, Eldritch Horror or Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, sometimes it would feel like you just want to give up because it's so overwhelming. There is a sense of overwhelming doom in this game, but there's always, if you play smartly, which unfortunately I rarely do, but if you play smartly, there always seems to be a way to overcome the challenges. And just because of how many decisions there are, how many great just tactical decisions, and how many ways to use the map to your advantage, knocking enemies into pits, using traps, using exploding barrels, moving around, kiting enemies. Really neat. So yeah, I just wanted to revisit Machina Arcana and say, if you still haven't picked up this game, there should be a new Kickstarter for a reprint and expansions sometime this year. Uri said that after this whole COVID mess, after it starts to die down, he's going to be looking at doing that. And I'm interested in some of the expansion ideas. I believe he said something about maybe like a a player versus player mode, like a deathmatch mode, and some expansions, hopefully some new quests. I don't really feel like we need any more equipment or heroes or monsters. I mean, we have a ton of a variety in that, but a couple more quests. Maybe I would really like to see a kind of a random mode where you don't play through a quest, but you can keep exploring, and kind of like maybe like a roguelike mode in this game would be pretty cool if you could implement it well with maybe like a deck of event cards or something to keep some kind of narrative flow going through the game. But all right, well, that's it. Just a quick video today. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you enjoy Machina Arcana, let me know, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.